All right, time for us to get into a conversation. Tonight we're talking about the demonstrations, mass demonstrations planned by Azimio that they say is going to go on. President William Ruto, on the other hand, says it is their constitutional right. They have a right to do so as long as they protect the property and lives of Kenyans, and which police will help them do that. We'll also talk about political party mergers. In studio, I have Matuga Member of Parliament, Kassim Tandaza. Matuga is in Kwale County. Mheshimiwa, karibu sana.
Very well, thank you.
You're welcome
to be here.
Yes.
Yeah.
Karibu sana. Let's begin with the mass demonstrations called for by Azimio. One of the things that they cite as the reason to why they will hit the streets is the cost of living. You are a serving member under the Kenya Kwanza coalition that has formed the government. You're elected on an ANC ticket. What is the government doing? First of all, even before we get to the demonstrations, they're saying they're demonstrating because of the high cost of living. Yes. Do you think the administration that you serve in Parliament has taken enough steps to deal with the cost of living in the country?
Jay, let's start by asking ourselves, how did we get ourselves here? Did it start on 9th of August last year? I think the answer will be no to everybody, including Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga, if he's to be honest with himself, plus his followers. He knows the cost of living did not start on 9th. Now, to your question, is there enough being done? I would say more than enough. Why? If you want to solve a problem, you need to go to its basics, to its root cause. The root cause of high cost of living is that we are literally importing everything, including our food stuff. You see, we are importing oil, you're importing fuel, there are things which we don't grow, but there are things that we can grow, but we are still importing them. This has put a lot of pressures, you can see, on our foreign currency. It's almost now becoming unimaginable. We've reached a level which has never been there before. And the current government has gone to the basics. The cost of living, yes, but you are talking about food. What is our staple food? Maize, literally. So how do we bring it down? By subsidizing the basics of growing it. We need to grow our own food. We are talking of importing maize from Zambia or wherever. It's grown there. It's grown cheaply. It is available. That's why they can export. Here, we are not growing maize. Why? We don't have the infrastructure for growing maize. One, well, we are a prayerful nation. We hope that God will give us rains. But beyond that, we need cheap fertilizer. We need the right seeds. We need quality seeds. We need affordable seeds. The land, fortunately, is there. But ultimately, if you look at the plan, the Kenya Kwanza plan, including the budget policy statement that we are now handling in Parliament, we are talking about providing water through mega dams. And I think that is the game changer. For the first time, we are focusing on the provision of the basics, that is water. Because we cannot just rely on talking about agriculture when you're talking about trend fed. We know climate change is here. It is real. It's bound to be there. So now we are looking at how we can provide water. These are multi-purpose dams, apart from generation of power and whatever, but mainly for agriculture. So if you were to ask me, we've done more than enough. Remember, as I've said, this is a problem that has been there for a long time, and it will take, I don't know, I don't want to use maybe a madman or somebody hallucinating to imagine that it would have ended once and for all. Our colleagues on the other side have been talking about subsidies. It's like this is something that has never been tried before. We know very well, prior to the general election, there were subsidies. I think that's where it came out so prominently, that you are going to put subsidies so that now from the packet of maize moving, that time almost 250, you'll get it at 100 bob. And I asked them, even if one was here, who saw that subsidized unga? It was not there. We don't have that. It can't just work. You cannot subsidize unga for the whole country, and for how long? Unless it's a donation, which of course nobody will not want to donate something which is not sustainable. Certainly it can't work. So this is a situation where, yes, as a Kenya Kwanza parliamentarian, as a member of parliament, I cannot say the cost of living is manageable. It's high. People are suffering. But we need to get a permanent solution to this problem. And that is where we're in Kenya Kwanza. Somebody talking about 100 days or 3 months. You know, if you've been suffering for a long time, it would be myopic to imagine you'll only swallow one tablet and instant coffee, you are cured. It can't happen that way. So that is where we are. Otherwise, I can tell you for sure, the maandamano has nothing to do with the high cost of living.
Before we talk about what it has
while I've been talking about the high cost of living, which is there in reality, if we are to now tie that to maandamano, certainly it has nothing to do with
We will talk about probably why you think they want to do maandamano. But still on the cost of living, don't you think the demonstrators are holding you to a promise of immediately we get into power, we are going to provide relief to Kenyans on the high cost of living? That was a promise made by President William Ruto himself. Now, seeing that it's almost 6 months and then that promise is not right.
You see, Jay, I don't know whether you've gone to a hospital, especially the public hospital where you have to queue. You've gone there, you are sick, and you are waiting for a doctor, and then finally the doctor arrives. Though somebody in a white coat, but we normally assume anybody in a white coat in the hospital setting is a doctor. And then, I don't know whether you have the experience that somehow you feel relief. You've not even been tested, you've not even been diagnosed, but the mere fact that the doctor has come, you feel relief. I think that is what we promised. Now we have the doctor has arrived. Unfortunately, it's also a Dr. William Ruto. The doctor is there. And then he's telling you that this is the diagnosis and these are the medicines that are required. You take them thrice a day for 30 days. You see, you don't expect to get relief. Certainly you don't expect to get cured the first day you take. But the mere fact that now you know you've seen the consultant and has prescribed the medicine for you, you just definitely feel that you are going to be cured because that's what you've been waiting for. That is what Kenyans should understand. We promised them and we are walking that journey towards what we promised. But it would have been myopic for somebody to imagine that all of a sudden the price of fuel will come down when the dollar the exchange rate is going up. How? You know, and these are factors beyond our control. We don't print dollars here. Our exports are low. We are not exporting to get those foreign currencies. So people should just realize that now we have the doctor, the prescription is there. Tukunywe tembe moja moja.
My question is probably on the same. Because during the campaign period, your promise was almost an immediate dealing with the problems that were bedeviling Kenya then. Of course, when you appreciate and say the dollar, that's a reality. The dollar is not printed in Kenya. There's quite, dynamics that are not just within the Republic of Kenya. Is Kenya Kwanza departing from its position? Because before the elections, it appeared like it was saying the problems then were created by the fourth regime.
It is not. To me, I will not really just place that this problem started with the previous regime. I've talked about food security. From where I see it, we've gotten it wrong right from when we got independence. You know, we needed to have gotten it right from independence in terms of food security, and we've not been able to do that. And about whether the previous regime actually made things worse, I could say that is what happened. Because if you can look at the total misappropriation or missed priorities during the handshake brothers, I think that was too glaring. You know, you remember there were some things which had been started. If the dams then which was started in the first 5 years of Jubilee, which I was not in Jubilee myself, my first time I was in NASA. But if the dams had been done, you know, water would have been there probably 3 years, 4 years before. And now we would be talking about food production. But for some reasons, it could have been corruption, it could have been what? I might not be having the total facts to say whether there was corruption or not. But to me, where I stand is we needed that water for food production, because that is what we are talking about now. That is where we are now. That never happened. What is happening now, I think if you are to look, to look at today's papers, now those mega dams are being revived. Irrespective of all the challenges, they could be in court, they could be what, but the priority is we need that water for food production. We cannot wait to say until we settle all court cases, until we settle all this, and we are not talking about food security in this country. So, to me, there was a total disconnect with the handshake brother, so to speak.
Before I let you tell us about why you think Raila is going to the streets, there's an issue of electoral reforms and the IEBC selection panel. Actually, they have issued a press that today 169 people have applied for the job to be either chairman or the six other commissioners of the IEBC. 82 political parties say they had signed a deal and they agreed to vote for the panel that indeed, or rather allowed for the establishment of a panel that was established under the Gazette notice. My big question obviously is, Raila Odinga is a big political player in this entire system, if we were to look at it that way. Didn't Kenya Kwanza, for example, feel that it was important to probably involve Raila Odinga as a big political player if you're introducing reforms into the IEBC?
You see, currently we've not done any reforms to the IEBC. If we talk about the selection process which is going on, it is the same selection process that was done by the Handshake brothers in picking the Cherera 4. Are we clear up to that point? The same process that is being used now, it is the same process which was done prior to the general election that gave us Cherera 4. The Right Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga, the big player as he is, I agree to that. He was with his brother, the former president, used that nomination process. Unfortunately, the gods were against them. The Cherera 4 never helped them. Now, it is laughable. It's laughable now to say we need two political parties, because I think his last statement was there is no way the IBC should be reconstituted now without Azimio also coming into play to say, to put their input there. But remember, when they were nominating this Cherera 4, it was basically the Jubilee wing of the former president and Raila Amolo Odinga. We were there. I was in parliament that time as ANC. Remember, by that time we were not allied to Kenya Kwanza or whatever. They didn't consult us. We never went to the streets to complain. But as we've said, it has been now proven, for any avoidance of doubt, that you can even bring your brother there. But if you are to lose, you lose. This is not about the ABC. They even boasted that they had the whole system, but they still lost. So I don't know what magic there would be now if they just put their input versus when they had it all to themselves and they still lost. You see. Otherwise, we've not done any new amendments in the 13th Parliament on the process of nominating, on the process of the selection panel, in the process of interviewing and finally submitting names to the president. That was what was done with the Cherera 4, submitted to Uhuru, nominated them and lost.
My question is, Mheshimiwa Tandaza, because you rightly point out that the Cherera 4 were picked probably from what you would call a partisan process by the Honorable Uhuru Kenyatta and the Honorable Raila Odinga. If it gave us the Cherera 4, a situation that almost sank this country into chaos, why would you want to replicate the same? Why don't then involve everybody and that everybody now has confidence?
You see, this country is governed by the constitutions and the existing laws that there is. If we were to do that, and I cannot say there's no room for improvement, you see, I would also want to be consulted from cost. You know, we've been marginalized for some time. But where will we start? We will start by actually amending the law. This is not about the constitution, by the way. We will only start by amending the law. In the current 13th Parliament, we have members of Parliament from ODM and Jubilee and wherever. They can bring those amendments. You see, it is just as simple as that. You don't put amendments on the streets. You don't put amendments
and which they think you will overrule them with the majority numbers.
Of course, that is what democracy is all about. Democracy is about numbers. Democracy is about the majority. In fact, it has always been said, and maybe I don't want to use this, but we've said sometimes democracy would mean that all fools are on one side. But for as long as it's democracy, that's it. I'm not saying that happens in parliament. But I believe if an Azimio member of parliament was to bring an amendment which makes sense, in that bunge the members of parliament which see sense are included, and I cannot say I'm alone. We will debate it, we will see the sense in it. I don't think we've reached a point where bunge now is divided into yes and no, that if you are bringing your amendment and on the other side I'll automatically oppose it. No. And this is the same thing I'm also appealing to them. If there's something good, like now the creation of the office of opposition, let it be supported, because we know our country, we know how ethnic we are, we know the players in this country. I'm not saying I am putting that, I will support that one because I have a hope of becoming a leader opposition one time. No. But I'm saying for the purposes of this country, let's support it. It should not be because If it is coming from the other side, then it is totally not good. And to me, I know parliamentarians bring the amendment. It's not too late now. It could be late for this process which has started, but we make laws for posterity. We don't make laws to favor an individual. And I think this is where we're missing that. For as long as Raila is not near State House or he cannot access State House, then there is no Kenya. I think that is where we are totally getting it wrong.
You alluded earlier that probably some of these reasons that have been lined up, actually they said 11, about 12 reasons, as they were read out the other week by the Honorable Raila Odinga, are not the real reasons why they are out or they will go out in the streets. Probably you can tell us in your own understanding why you think they're going out to the streets, and tie it with the cause, growing cause for that matter, for the President and the Honorable Raila Odinga to dialogue and probably even have a handshake.
Well, is it that we say what history teaches us is that what we learn from history is that we don't learn anything from history. We are dealing with Raila Amolo Odinga, well known, a serious figure in this country, fighter for democracy. These are things we cannot. But remember, for the 5 times he has run for president and lost, he has always gone mandamano. That time we was not talking about the cost of living. That time was, you see, the first time when he was leading mandamano, there were even no servers, but he still went for mandamano. And you see, these are the facts, that whenever he loses, there must be an amount. And somehow he gets into government, you see. Now this is the history that we want to gauge this time. I think the question is, given that for the last 4 losses, he has always managed to go into government, will he manage this time? I think that is the question. Otherwise, all the reasons that he's talking about, to me, there are no reasons for mandamano. Because when you do mandamano, does that make the cost of living even more difficult? Because you are essentially scaring investors. You are telling that those people who will probably be hustling, having gotten the hustler loan, they are not going to do business, because those are the people who actually will get on the roads. You see. So are you making their cost of living better, or you're even worsening it? You are worsening it. So to me, that is a zero-sum game. When you talk about opening servers, and here you are telling the president to open servers, I don't know whether, you see, we have a constitution, you have a law, and they have very serious lawyers on their side. But now they are saying Ruto should open servers. Surely, how? The election was done, dusted. We know the current law actually says the results at the polling station are final. There is no server at the polling station. This one knows. Yeah. There is no server at the polling station. That's what the law says. And we are yet to see, even when they say they have so many million votes, they would want to see from my polling station, which is Ikra Nursery School, to tell me, look, Tandaza, you have it, but look, at your polling station, these were the results which were signed by the agents and pinned there, and you had your copy. Now look, what was tallied was different. None so far. Not even from his strongholds, because he would use his strongholds and say, look, a polling station in Bondo, what was actually displayed at the door is different from what was read here. So what is the issue? But that's why I'm saying all the points that they're talking about, they have nothing to do with the cost of living. They have something to do with him being in government as usual whenever he loses. Now, the point to note is, will he be lucky the 5th time around this time?
Should we engage with this calls for dialogue?
Well, as Kenyans, and I've been on record several times, and I'm very consistent in this, we should not stop talking to any Kenyan, irrespective of his political affiliation, irrespective of his color, irrespective of his creed. You see, even me, if I got the opportunity to talk to the Right Honorable Raila, I should greet him and talk to him and introduce myself. Somebody should not just come and say, you are in Kenya Kwanza and we saw you talking to Raila. No, we may not even be talking politics, you see. So, for the purposes of the unity of this country, going forward, we should be talking to each other. I don't think we should reach a point where we're saying, I cannot talk to so-and-so, who is a Kenyan. It is there in the Constitution. We should talk to each other. But when it comes to the elections now, this is a different matter. You see, even me, in my constituency, we were 11 of us. You see, I won. in terms of the majority votes. Now, we cannot say those who lost now must nominate them to the CDF. Of course, I don't nominate people to the CDF committee, but the perception is we do. That how come even in your office there is no loser who is a member of the CDF? How come in your parliamentary office none of your competitors is there? This doesn't. We'll fight and live to fight another day. Right. But the problem now is, and I could see this coming if you followed my discussions prior to the election, that it's a very disparate move because I don't think he has any chance. The last bullet that he had, Alitumia, the last, I don't know what he had. I think he had only the magazine, this one. He threw it away. Now, it's like, this is, I don't know what, we are looking at post-2027. Will Raila, will the Raila that we know be able to even mount a serious campaign for the presidency come 2027? I think that is another angle that we look at it, and that's why we are saying he has a history of getting himself into government, and I think that's the only chance that he has now, but I really doubt if he will be fifth time lucky. Right. Kwa sisi Waswahili watu tunasema shahada ni mara tatu. Yeye amebreak record yake imekuwa mara 4, no ni ya 5. I don't think he'll be the fifth time.
All right. We've spent quite a considerable time on it. Let's use the remaining 5 minutes to talk about the political parties merger.
Yep.
This idea that has come with the new Secretary General of the UDA party, Cleopas Malala, constituent parties within Kenya Kwanza, to fold up and form a bigger party that is a UDA. But ANC is among the parties that have resisted that move. Why?
You've used 2 words which I'm not quite sure whether they can be used in the same sentence. Come together and form a bigger party, UDA.
Yes.
This is not coming together to form a bigger party. Yes. This is joining a party. From where I sit, I will say for those who have decided to join UDA, there is nothing wrong. I would also say there will be nothing wrong to do that. But at this point on time, and this is where I think Cleophas Malala got it wrong and has been my member of ANC. I'm also a deputy party leader of ANC. We have an existing MOU or memorandum which is deposited at the Register of Political Parties. They are organs, you see. They are members. There are different organs in any political party, and he knows that ANC or Ford Kenya is not a small party the way the other. There were 6 or 7 who joined the other day. You know, we are having parties where the party leader is everything. One, he's not even elected himself. He's the party leader. He doesn't have an MCA. Probably got some few gardeners kama kwa nao pale nyumbani na nini, and relatives akasema those are party officials. Then it's easier to make such a decision. You see. But even if that decision was to be made, I think it will not be made from the podium. You see. I don't think that is what should be done. But I would want to also give my personal thoughts here. How did Jubilee and ODM lose? If ANC and Ford Kenya, somehow they were cautious enough to actually talk to those parties, because we are looking at the margin of about 200,000 and maintained them, factors remaining constant, we would clearly see that they would have had that advantage. But because of their kiburi, the stamping, take it or leave it, we are the big brothers, if you don't want you, basically, and I will not want us in Kenya Kwanza to go that direction. I don't want us in Kenya Kwanza to go that direction because we will be shooting ourselves on the foot. What is the advantage of having many parties in one formation? You see, I can tell you for sure, the low turnout of voters, which happened in those areas where you would have expected high voter turnout, in Nyanza, because even where the Right Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga, if you look at the voter turnout in Nyanza, was the lowest this time. Even Rift Valley, where you would have expected up to 95, 98, it was quite low. Why? When you put all the people in one basket, you take them to a nomination, they lose, and they don't have any other party. You know, I can run as in another party, but still say, this is my presidential candidate. So my mom and my relatives, where we start from, my village, they will say, once I vote for Tandaza, I'll also vote for his presidential. But when you tell me I'm out, Now I'm just about to support someone else. You know, supporting someone else is not, I certainly cannot have the same vigor, especially if somebody that you are competing and I will believe he was favored. So definitely my people will not go to vote. So for me, the way forward is to maintain these coalitions. Right. You see, the way forward is to maintain these coalitions. One, it is a tested way of actually winning. For the last 2-3 general elections, it's only coalitions who have won, which have won. And two, in terms of getting that presidential vote out from all the other parties that will come in. You see, people exercising their democratic rights, but again, getting a higher voter turnout in terms of the presidential vote. I think this is quite important. Otherwise, I will not say categorically whether which way we'll go. We have organs. These are discussions. It is a give and take. It depends with what is on offer. But last but not least, I am here and I would want to be quoted, God willing, when I'm alive in 2027. If all the parties will fold and join UDA, come 2026, new parties will be registered. You see, so it's a zero-sum game. That's why I'm saying as a zero-sum game. Right. And once these new parties are registered, because it will reach a point where you think you also need their votes, coalitions will again be formed. It will be no wonder that those who are folding their parties now, they'll use some cronies to register new parties in 2026 and bargain again through those parties, pretending themselves are new. You know, we're in Kenya. We know, but yeah, that is the main problem with the current scenario that we are trying to push.
The Honorable Kassim Tandaza, the Member of Parliament for Matuga, thanks very much for joining us, and very good insights, obviously, on the political developments in the country.
Sure.
After Monday, probably we'll also call you again so that we look at how it pans out, right?
My problem with Monday on mass, they call it mass action.
Mass action, yes.
It's so sad. It pains me that it might turn to mass destruction. I'm saying this with a lot of heavy heart. You know, we know for a situation like that where you are mobilizing people all over the country. One, if it's true that life is so difficult, then people should not even be able to travel unless they are being paid, of course. You know, but with that kind of arrangement, that is my worry. But I know the president is seized of that matter. He's up to the task. It is in the Constitution. Picketing is there. Peaceful demonstrations are there. But of course, when they turn distraction, that is where the problem is. And everybody is going to lose. The distraction is not going to be about Azimio versus Kenya Kwanza. People are going to lose, all of us. Please, let's have our Kenya intact.
Absolutely. The Member of Parliament for Matuga, Kassim Tandaza, joining us tonight to talk about the mass demonstrations planned by Azimio and, of course, the political parties merger. Quite interesting insights coming tonight. That's why we put a cap on a Prime Edition. Lensa Odinga was a sign language interpreter. My name is John Jacob Kioria. Have yourself a fantastic night. God bless.